In this lesson, we're going to learn about diffusion. We're going to basically cover everything you need to know about the topic of diffusion. We're going to make it as simple as possible. So, diffusion is something that you must have experienced if you have siblings. So, if you have siblings, you have definitely experienced diffusion, whether as a result of a fart or the nice, delicious aroma of food. So, what is diffusion? Diffusion is the movement of particles from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration until they are evenly spread out, or in scientific terms, until equilibrium is achieved. Basically, when there is a lot of particles in a space, the particles naturally move from where there is a lot of them to where there is fewer. So basically, most particles like to have their space. This process usually happens without energy. So this is a passive process or passive transport. So how does diffusion work? When you put a drop of food coloring in a glass of water, at first, the color is concentrated in one spot. Over time, the color spreads throughout the water without you even having to stir it. That is diffusion in action. It happens because particles are constantly moving in random directions, and over time, this random motion causes them to spread out evenly. Although diffusion is a passive transport, there are still some factors that can affect the rate of diffusion. So the rate of diffusion is basically how quickly diffusion can happen, and it can be affected by several factors. One factor is concentration gradient. A gradient in concentration basically means that we have one concentration that is high and one concentration that is low. So the bigger the difference between the high concentration and the low concentration, the faster diffusion will happen. So for an example, if we have granulated sugar and then we have two liquids. One of the liquids is sugar syrup, which already contains sugar, and one of them is water, just plain water, or you can say distilled water. If we try to mix in the sugar granules into the sugar syrup and the water, the sugar particles will diffuse faster in water than it would diffuse in sugar syrup. This is because there's a much larger concentration gradient in the water than in the sugar syrup. This is because the sugar syrup already contains sugar molecules evenly spread out. So it will take more time for the sugar granules to diffuse or dissolve in this scenario in the syrup than it would take in water. Another factor is temperature. Higher temperatures give particles more energy, making them move and mix faster. Remember we said that diffusion happens due to constant random motion. So temperature will help increase this constant random motion, making them move faster. Another factor is particle size. Smaller particles diffuse more quickly than larger particles. This is one of the reasons why perfumes, air fresheners, and the rest diffuse faster because their particles are very, very tiny compared to solid particles of things like sugar, salt, candy, and the rest. And then finally for this video, the final factor is the medium. Diffusion happens differently in different mediums. Diffusion happens faster in gases, slower in liquids, and slowest in solids. So gas particles will diffuse faster, followed by liquid particles and then solid particles. So why exactly do we have to bother ourselves with the topic of diffusion? How does it concern us if things can diffuse quickly or slowly? Let's look at diffusion in living organisms. Diffusion plays a vital role in biology. For example, oxygen diffuses from the air in the alveoli into the blood, while carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood into the alveoli to be exhaled. In plant leaves, carbon dioxide diffuses from the air into the leaf for photosynthesis and oxygen diffuses out. In cells, nutrients and waste products move in and out through diffusion across the cell membrane. Let's look at the different types of diffusion. There are two main types of diffusion. We have the simple diffusion and the facilitated diffusion. You can get a hint just from the names. In simple diffusion, the particles move directly through a membrane without any help. A good example of this is oxygen entering the bloodstream in the lungs, because we can also see this in food coloring dispersing in water and in perfume spreading through a room. In facilitated diffusion, particles move through special protein channels in the membrane. This is still a form of passive transport because it doesn't require the use of energy. A good example of this is the passage of ions like sodium, potassium, and calcium through ion channels. So, to sum it all up, diffusion is the passive movement of particles from high to low concentration, and it is driven by random motion, and it's very much essential for life and everyday processes. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more science topics. Next, we'll learn about osmosis, a very close relative to diffusion.